I'm a college student working in retail, and over winter break, I was taking as many shifts as possible because the first semester left me broke. In the first few weeks of January, I had a slew of closing shifts at the register and on the sales floor, and they were always pretty dry. One night, a man comes to the register with a return and then comes back later with a lot of random clothes. Not that weird to have someone with multiple transactions, especially with the holidays having just finished. He's mid-50s, with a South Asian accent and really distinct salt and pepper hair. Before I go any further, let me mention I'm also a guy, and I'm gay, but I usually have a fake customer voice so you can't tell. This man is talking to me for a while, and I honestly feel weirdly comfortable with him. At one point, he asks about my pant size and asks me to step back from the register to see my lower body. A lot of people ask me about what size I wear, usually to compare to their teenage sons, so this wasn't weird, but then he comments on my butt being big. I'm kinda half laughing like, oh, people told me that before, and I'm instantly thinking, why would I tell him that? He asked to see it, and in the moment I almost did. Again, while my conscience is screaming, do not do that, before I stopped and said, that's a bad idea. I'd get you in trouble over a total joke. And he responds deadpan with, nobody's watching. Anyway, he just keeps being conversational until I turn around to fold one of his items, and he says, your friends were right about your butt. I turn around. He keeps repeating my name he saw on my name tag, and I put my hand on the register while I wait for his receipt to print. He puts his hand on top of mine, and I immediately twist into a handshake to try and normalize this. He says, nice to meet you, and walks out. And then he comes back with more random shit. Before he can try anything, another customer comes, and suddenly he isn't talking. He mouths something to me at the register and leaves, and he comes back again once the next customer leaves. He asks for the bathroom, goes, and returns less than 30 seconds later. He asks if I work tomorrow. You have to understand my complete panic at this moment, and I just say the first thing that comes to mind, which is the truth. I say, yes. He smiles and leaves. I come into work tomorrow because I'd get a lot of shit if I called out. As I work on the sales floor, I figure nothing is going to happen, and that was just a one-night event with a creeper. I joke about it with my coworker, and then he walks in. My stomach plummets, and I sprint to the bathroom to hide. My walkie-talkie flies out of my pocket, but I'm too spooked to do anything except beeline to the bathroom. In there, I call every one of my coworkers on the job, but not a single one answers their phone because our managers are bogus about that. And the walkie is gone. I hear footsteps outside the bathroom and feel trapped. I feel like vomiting but open the door, and it's a white guy and his kid. Thank God. I dash for my walkie and tell my manager the situation. She lets me take refuge in the back for 10 minutes, and then makes me return to work, because making women's leggings look pretty is more important than a man prowling the store. He walks around for 45 minutes, and my coworkers always stay close to me. My closest friend described it as a lion searching for prey in the store. He was searching every corner, and I was thankful to have great coworkers to keep me on the move and surrounded whenever he came near. Eventually, he returned every item he bought with me yesterday. He told the cashier he'd come back again tomorrow, and I didn't work, so I'm not sure what became of him. I never saw him again. I was arrogant to think as a man I would never be targeted like that by a creep. I won't be returning to the job this summer because my manager's response did not sit right with me, and hopefully we'll find a job where safety is the priority, not an afterthought. I used to work in a popular retail store that sells cheap, fashionable clothing for women and girls. The store was located on a retail park not far from the city's main airport. I was also attending university at the time, so typically, I worked the late shifts from 6 p.m. until 10 p.m. every other night. One day during summer, a girl I was working with told me over lunch about this creepy guy who kept popping into the store during the day. She described him as being really large, not necessarily fat, just very tall and broad with wild gray hair and creepy, staring, frog-like eyes that bulged out a little from his face. She said that this guy always bought underwear that was in the sale. He also bought a lot of kids' underwear. He would never smile. He would just stare very intently at you as you served him and made gruff mumbling noises. He never spoke. Considering the store is located near the airport, we had pretty regular customers, as well as a few foreign tourists, so oddballs were not very typical in our experience. One day, roughly 2 weeks later, I agreed to cover another girl's day shift as we had a week off from uni and I needed the money anyway. Well, lo and behold, in walks creepy guy himself, and I had to serve him on the till. He was just like my friend had described, except I also noticed that he was wearing a shirt with the Confederate flag emblazoned on the front of it. In the UK, not many people are aware of what the Confederate flag is, or how controversial it is. I'm no expert, but I was aware it was a controversial flag associated with slavery. When I saw that flag, something in my face must have registered with him, and he smirked the creepiest fucking smirk that I have ever seen in my life. And yes, he was buying underwear. A lot of underwear, all of it in the reduced section. The underwear was either a UK size 8 or a kid's size. He stank as well, like he hadn't showered in weeks. It was repulsive. Every fiber of my being was screaming at me to get as far away as possible from him. I served him as quickly as I could and felt physically ill when he put the cash in my hand. He stared at me the whole time really intently, smirking whenever he caught my eye. It was horrible. He left, and I told our security guard about it. Our security guard, Joe, said he was aware of this freak, and he was going to speak to the retail park's general security about it. Another week or so went by, and I went back to my usual routine. The other girls mentioned how this freaky guy was coming in quite regularly now, always buying underwear and nothing else. I was just really grateful I only worked evenings and weekends. I never wanted to see him again. Joe was really suspicious of this man. Security wanted to inform the police about him, but creepy guy wasn't doing anything illegal. So, rather unprofessionally, Joe took it upon himself to follow this man leaving the retail park one day. He followed him all the way back to a hotel. Creepy guy had apparently been staying in a hotel for weeks and weeks. Unfortunately, while covering another shift for a friend, I saw creepy guy again. He'd been standing in a corner of the shop where the jeans were stocked for about 10 minutes. Then he was lingering by the maxi dresses. Then he bought a load of underwear again and left. I was on the fitting room, so I didn't have to interact with him, but I saw he was wearing the same clothes from our last encounter. Later on that night, as we were tidying the shop, a girl who was tidying up the jeans came running. She said that in the pockets of the jeans were loads of unused period pads. We found more on the floor by the dresses and near the tills. Even though they clearly hadn't been used, we refused to touch them. Joe got some gloves and dumped them. He went into the back and rewound the CCTV and confirmed it was indeed creepy guy stuffing period pads into the jean pockets. Creepy guy was clearly getting a kick out of it. He was smirking that horrid smirk of his. God knows what he was thinking, or why on earth he was doing it. We never saw him again after that. I've since left that store as I moved abroad 3 years ago, so I don't know if he ever went back. When I was a freshman in college, I was 18, and I got a job at one of the big chain department stores in my town. Not my first job, also not my first choice for a job in general, but the hours were steady, and it paid more than minimum wage. I am now almost 22, and I have a new job that has recently brought back my memories from freshman year. And I'm sharing this story because I'm tired of feeling like I'm fucked up because this shit keeps happening to me. This particular department store is open from 8 a.m. until midnight starting on Black Friday, and keeps those hours until Christmas Eve. Being a student, during the week I usually worked the later shifts, from 8 p.m. to midnight, and on weekends my hours varied. This particular incident happened when I worked from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. on a Sunday. I worked in the women's clothing department my entire shift. I was wearing leggings, an oversized cardigan, and of course a name tag because fuck retail workers, right? Anyways, at some point during my shift, I dropped my phone and my case broke. The store at which I worked happens to be next door to a Walmart, so I decided that after I clocked out, I'd head over there to get a new case. I walk out to my car, which is parked at the back of the lot, and head over to Walmart. When I get there and get parked, I realize how bad my feet hurt, and I decide to sit in my car for a minute before heading into the store. I check Facebook, Twitter, whatever, and I'm clearly paying no mind to my surroundings because when I ran out of shit to read, I decide to head inside. I sat in my car for maybe 10 minutes, 15 tops. I exit my car, and I realize that my wallet had somehow ended up on the passenger side floor, so I reach in to grab it. As I'm half in my car and half out of my car, I hear someone saying my name. I pick up my wallet and duck back out of my car, only to find a man perched on my trunk, presumably waiting for me. He legit looked like Dave Chappelle with less teeth. I've obviously never seen this person in my entire life, so I close my door and lock my car and start trying to get to the store. I get to the front of my car like where you would stand if you were going to pop the hood when he starts to yell at me. "Hey, minuscule mermaid, I saw you at work today. Damn, I'm gonna start shopping there more often. You are a fine piece of ass. If I hit it, can I get a discount?" I start running. So does he. "Minuscule mermaid, how are you gonna ignore me like that? I'm just trying to give you a ride." I get into Walmart and ask for a manager. I'm not sure if he came inside. I didn't look back. The Walmart people call the cops, and a manager walked me back to my car. The cops met me at my dorm room and took my statement, but the cops in my town are actually useless, so I don't even think they believed me. I called my manager once the police left and told him what happened, and he tells me he's going to go through the tapes to see if anyone was following me during my shift. He calls back the next day and says there's a guy on the tapes matching the description I gave, but he didn't buy anything, therefore they didn't have any other information on him. Furthermore, that guy would have had to wait for me to get off of work and then follow me to my next destination. 2 weeks or so go by, and the managers have started a buddy system where everyone gets walked out to their car by one of the bigger employees. I happen to work until midnight this time, and my friend Alex is my bodyguard for the evening. I'm about 100 feet in front of him, and maybe a quarter of a football field away from my car. I happen to look up at my car, and there's the outline of a man sitting on my hood. I freeze where I'm at and look back at Alex, who says, "I see him." The man on my hood stands up but doesn't leave. He also doesn't say anything. He's just standing there like a creep. So, Alex takes off in a full sprint towards him, and I dial 911. The guy sees the giant ex-football player sprinting towards him and books it away from my car. Alex doesn't chase him. The cops come and take yet another useless statement, except this time there was another witness, but it was still dark, so neither of us saw his face. Anyways, I quit that job not long after because I certainly didn't feel safe having at least one stalker, but quite possibly 2 stalkers knowing my name, where I worked, and what car I drove. So I've worked retail now for a few years at the same place. There's been a customer since I started named Jason. Jason is a tall, bulky man with scraggly hair who cross-dresses in his spare time. Okay, fine. I'm open-minded, and he's certainly not our only cross-dresser. The difference is that Jason likes to talk with our employees, all of whom are female. Like he really likes to talk to us. In the beginning, I thought it was just sort of sad, and that he was very lonely. As the years went on, a few things seemed off about Jason. One night, he came in later in the evening and begged my coworker and me not to go out into that dark alley to take the garbage out. I mean, fair enough. Taking the garbage out does require walking down an alley and isn't necessarily totally safe, but it's a nice part of town, and the worst thing out there is usually middle-class 15-year-olds smoking pot. But then he said, and I quote, "Who knows what might happen to you? You could be raped or mugged or killed." Everything he says is monotone, with a completely deadpan blank look. My coworker and I are a little creeped out, and he's the only other person in the store with us, so we assure him we won't take the garbage out just so he'll leave us alone. He keeps chatting with us and keeps using the phrase, "You could be raped or mugged or killed," in reference to us going outside. Eventually, we convince him we won't go outside, and he leaves. I turn to my coworker and say, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if he were out there waiting by the dumpster to catch us disobeying him, and I don't want to know what'll happen if he catches us. We didn't take the garbage out. Fast forward 3 years, he's still a customer who comes in from time to time. He comes in and waves me over. Knowing he likes to be chatty, I try to stay very formal and professional. He shows me his phone and it's him, from the waist down, in fishnet stockings, a leather skirt, and tall boots. As he starts scrolling through his photos, I'm afraid that these pictures are going to turn sexual, so I simply compliment the boots, which he informs me are from a sex shop. He asks if I ever go there. I say I've never heard of it and bail the hell out of that conversation. Then a couple of days ago, he came in on another evening shift where it was just myself and a coworker. This coworker is somewhat conservative and refuses to work with Jason on account of his cross-dressing. That left me. Since he was again the only customer in the store, I had no excuse to get away from him. He chatted to me about how he has girlfriends in foreign countries and how he has control over them financially. He told me about how he keeps them in line using money and likes the culture because the women are submissive. I'm getting seriously creeped out by the inappropriate turn the conversation has taken. Also, a little scared because he won't take his hands out of his pockets, and I'm afraid he'll either pull out a weapon or is doing God knows what else in there. While he's telling me all these stories of his dominance over women, he never breaks eye contact or changes the deadpan expression on his face. Everything is monotone. I'm a bit frightened at this point. I look around for my coworker and try to telepathically tell her to come get me out of this conversation. She doesn't come near us. He then said that he considers myself and my coworkers his best friends in the world, and that he wishes he could keep us forever and ever and ever. Now I'm pretty sure my eyes got pretty big, but I tried to play it casual and professional and just say that we're glad he likes to shop with us, etc. But at this point, I was quite concerned that I was in danger, if not immediately, at some point in the future. I told my manager about this, and she agreed it was extremely creepy, but wasn't sure what to do about it. He did nothing illegal that we can report to police. Having him banned from the store will piss him off, and as it is, he's creepy and likes us. We don't want him to remain creepy and start disliking us. Every time he enters the store now, I try to stay near the back section so I can make a quick getaway if he decides to pull out a gun and just start mowing us down. He's very much the type who seems capable of committing such a terrible act. Mentally unbalanced, for sure. Likely mentally ill, very unhappy and lonely. Dominance issues, no boundaries. I'm kind of scared at my job now. Two years ago, I was working at my old job as a cashier at a grocery store. I was really friendly to all my customers and most of them loved me. Well, one night I was working late, around 9 p.m., but the store was still decently packed. I had a big line of customers and was smiling and being nice to all of them when this man appeared next in line. He was roughly 5 feet 10 with shoulder-length black greasy hair that was under a cap, a long green jacket, and an old black backpack slung over one shoulder. His face was extremely pale, and he had big black glasses that kept sliding down. As soon as he came up to ring out his items, something felt wrong. However, me being the silly person I am, just smiled at him and was polite. Big mistake. He responded to nothing that I said. He just gave me this creepy dead-eyed stare and wouldn't take his eyes off of me, even while paying for his food with his card. I was totally creeped out, but I kept smiling and told him to have a nice night. After he left, I felt a lot better, and the people after him were very sweet and non-creepy. Fast forward an hour, I look up and I see him. He was standing by the exit of the store just staring at me, not moving. I stop what I'm doing for a second and just stare back in shock. I don't say anything to my supervisor or my bagger. I just freeze and stare back. However, my customer snaps me out of it by asking me a question, and I look away to help them out. And when I look back, he is gone. I'm a little unnerved at this point, but I shrug it off and go back to work. Fast forward another 30 minutes. It's almost time to leave, and I'm looking forward to going home and relaxing when I feel like someone besides my customers is watching me. I look around, and I see nothing, but I still feel like someone is watching me. So I look behind me, and there he is, standing in the second exit right behind me, just staring. I tell my bagger, who shrugs it off. When I look back, he is gone again. Now I am definitely creeped out. So I tell my supervisor since I am leaving in 30 minutes, and she tells me one of the guys will walk me to the car. Fast forward another 30 minutes. It's time to go, and I'm walking out with one of the cart guys. I start telling him about the creepy guy I saw, and he goes, "Oh yeah, that guy." I look at him in confusion, and he tells me that this guy has been hanging out in the parking lot for the last hour and a half, just watching the store and not moving. He said he thought he was weird, but he didn't think twice about it, and that the guy suddenly got up and ran away 5 to 10 minutes ago. The whole ride home, I kept checking my rearview mirror to see if anyone was following me, but I never saw that guy again. So I'm a 20-year-old girl, and it's like I'm just straight-up creepy old man bait. I don't go shopping alone often because it makes me uneasy being stared at, so I usually go with my boyfriend just to make me feel better. On this occasion, though, he was at work. Desperately needing some snacks, I headed out to my local Kroger, a relatively large grocery store nearest to my house. This particular Kroger is arranged awfully, so I usually end up doubling back because I don't realize I missed something. Because of that, it makes it really obvious if someone is following you. I started on the left end of the store, just picking up some fruit, when I noticed this very old man in overalls staring at me. Not thinking much of it, I just smiled politely and walked past him. After a couple of minutes of shopping and looking around, I noticed this man is still pretty close, but he hasn't picked up any additional groceries. So I get a little uneasy and just walk away to the other end of the store to get some ice cream. Now I'm stopped looking at the ice cream for a while because there are so many options. After looking, Creepo comes over and starts staring at the ice cream directly next to me. At that moment, I decided I didn't need ice cream, and I was done shopping. Mind you, the old man, after staring at the ice cream with me for 5 minutes, did not get any. From there, I booked it around the corner and ran all the way to the end of the aisle, took a sharp turn, and hurried to check out. I got in line and then offered a random person about to check out the spot behind me. I figured this would give me some time. Believe it or not, The old man comes to check out and stands behind the person behind me. I started quietly talking to ladies checking me out and asked them to take a very long time on the old man because he had been following me the whole time. They just laughed it off like I was some dumb teenager and said, "Yeah, that's old men for you," when I was genuinely worried for my safety. At this point, I'm sure you're all thinking, call the cops. Yeah, that's what my dad said too, but I just didn't think about that in the moment. After checking out, I ran to my car and started putting away my groceries as fast as possible. I had an entire cart full to put away. I finally got my groceries in my car, and since I was eyeing the door the whole time, I saw the old man come out of the doors and beeline for me. I slammed the trunk of my car, and he was waiting for me at the driver's door. I locked the car and ran across the parking lot while calling my boyfriend to see what to do. I'm crying trying to get a hold of him, but he's at work, so of course he doesn't see me call. At this point, I'm hiding behind a Kia Soul hoping this old man will walk towards me so I can run back to my car. He does, so I jump at the opportunity, and I'm unlocking my car as I run. I jump in the driver's seat and zoom home. He watched me drive away while standing in front of his stupid little red sedan that was on the other side of the parking lot from where I was parked and where he was stalking me from. I took tons of back roads home to make sure I wasn't followed.